Having plenty of time, she started doing her makeup, trying to get it perfect. She was learning, but it still took several attempts to get it looking reasonable. Satisfied her face didn't scream beginner, she went and ate a leisurely breakfast. One thing the dream did was finish filling out the will details that Colin had done some months before. Having predated it and signed it in Colin's signature, Beth then signed it as a witness, adding in a matching date 1 month prior. The will stated simply that all properties and monies were to go to Ted, his lifelong friend. This would avoid any suspicion from the police, as everyone knew they were close. Beth sealed the envelope that Ted would put in Colin's house to be conveniently discovered later. Maggie patted in on silent paws and meowed inquiringly. Then she headed out to the front door once more, announcing her arrival there. "You want to go out?" Beth asked the kitten as Maggie rubbed suggestively up against the door. "Okay, Maggie, you can go out, but don't be long," Beth suggested. Opening the door a bit, she let the kitten out. Just as she was about to shut it again, a flare of light across the street caught her eye. She closed the door quickly and moved into the lounge. Leaving the light off, she peered past a slightly opened curtain. Another car was parked across the road with one man inside, who had just lit up a cigarette. She could see the glowing end intensify as he drew on it. Getting a naughty idea, she decided to ring the police and report a stalker. "That will put a crimp in your plans to keep me under surveillance," she thought peevishly, getting tired of being under suspicion. Having made the call to the police, saying with a tremulous voice that she wanted to report a stalker, the police were very courteous and even sounded genuinely concerned. After giving her name and address, she turned back to observing the car and its occupant. She waited, expecting it to leave once the dispatcher relayed the message to the driver. She was surprised, as a few minutes went by, then a black and white car slid silently up behind the parked car. 2 officers slipped out quickly, approaching the front doors of the vehicle on both sides in the well-practiced maneuver all police use on suspected criminals. They had a hand on their weapons as they knocked on the window, signaling the driver. Beth couldn't see what was happening as the officer was blocking her view. She noticed there was some conversation, and the driver hadn't been ordered out of the vehicle. Watching avidly, Beth saw the officers look towards her house and then nodded to one another. Getting a bad feeling about this, Beth was thinking about calling Ted on her cell phone when she saw one of the officers get back in his car while the other started walking over to her home. The driver of the parked car remained where he was and didn't look like he was moving anytime soon. Pulling back, she pondered what the reason could be for such a determined effort to keep her under surveillance. The unmistakable staccato knock, that police all over must practice to get to sound so authoritative, startled her out of her musings. "Beth Winslow, this is the police. Can we have a word with you, please?" Scared and nervous, Beth went to the door and opened it a few inches. "Yes, I'm Beth Winslow. What can I do for you? Can I come in, please? This shouldn't take long. It's about your call." "Okay," she answered, opening the door wider. The officer was tall, about 30 years old, with a rugged look to him that she thought was somewhat appealing. Shocked by her thoughts, and the hidden implications of appealing associated with male, she blanched in shock. The officer, used to seeing shocked women in these situations, paid no mind to Beth's pale face. Beth, looking into his gray eyes, felt like she was drowning, and her stomach was doing flip-flops. She could feel her heartbeat racing, and for some reason, her body responded in unexpected ways. She started to panic, wondering why she was feeling like this. She felt disoriented and dizzy, her mind racing. The officer, seeing her tremble, then held out a hand and guided her to the nearest seat. He gave her reassuring words that she wasn't to be alarmed. The officer waited while Beth tried to gather her composure. Beth was shocked more by her body's reaction to the officer than by the possible reasons for his visit. "I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me just then," she said honestly. "I see it all the time, Miss Winslow, is it miss?" the officer asked kindly. At her nod, he went on, "A beautiful woman like yourself, alone and thinking she saw a stalker, has every right to be shocked and scared," he finished. Beth was again in turmoil, her mind was operating on 2 levels. Part of her was focused on the conversation, and the other part was trying to process how her body was reacting. Being called beautiful had in some way pleased her. She smiled at the officer in an almost automatic response to his flattery, while her thoughts swirled. She was a woman now, well, almost. The internal changes had reconnected her nerves to the new female parts that were forming the new Beth. All this flashed through her mind in seconds as she tried to concentrate on the officer's explanation. The car across the road isn't a stalker. Apparently, you've come to the FBI's attention. I spoke to the agent in the car, Mr. Smith. The officer grinned at the tired old joke, raising an eyebrow in mock disbelief. Apparently, you are of interest to them, but I wasn't able to get any more information from the guy. I did check his badge and confirmed it was genuine, so you have nothing to worry about on that score. I suggest you contact the FBI directly, unless you know why they might be keeping you under surveillance, he asked, hoping to get an answer. No, I don't really. I was in an accident a few days ago, but nothing to warrant the FBI getting involved, a puzzled Beth answered. Well, I'll be going then, the officer said, curiosity plainly written on his face. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry it was a wasted call, Beth thanked him. All part of the service, miss, better safe than sorry, the officer responded with a smile as he walked to the door. As he opened it, Maggie flashed past in a feline blur, intent on checking her food bowl. Needing the distraction, Beth went and got out some food for the kitten. Beth made up her mind to ring Ted and went to the phone before pausing. If the FBI were involved, then it was possible that her phones were tapped. Instead, she picked up her cell phone and went into the kitchen to make the call. Hello, Ted, it looks like I'm being investigated by the FBI now. I spotted a car outside this morning and rang the cops, telling them it was a lurker. But what I really wanted to call you for is, can you pick up a bouquet of flowers for me? I was going to pick some up last night for Jenna, but I forgot. You can bring them over here on the way. Ted could hear the radio playing in the background while Beth was talking. It made it hard to make out her words clearly. The words FBI came over loud and clear, and he nearly panicked himself, wondering if they had slipped up somewhere. Guessing the radio was to cover the conversation from directional microphones or even bugs, Ted chose his words carefully. Sure, that's not a problem. I'll get a bunch of roses at Miko's on the way over. The FBI, you say? I wonder what they're up to. Not that we have anything to hide, he lied smoothly. I'll be around in 30 minutes, okay? He said, trying to sound calm. I have no idea, but I'm going to find out when I get to work. I can tell them my story and that should be it. You really have nothing much to add, she subtly suggested. All you saw was where I was when you rescued me, she hinted, hoping Ted would pick up on it. True, Ted answered, showing Beth he understood the deeper meaning. I'll ask around as well and find out what's going on. Sure you don't want me to pick you up? No thanks, remember, Jenna wants to talk with me later at her place. We're taking the afternoon off. Right, okay, I'll see you in a little while then. Bye. Ted knew there was more to the request to pick up the flowers than what Beth had said. She obviously wanted to see him for something before going to work. He also suspected there was more to her taking her own car to work. Was it in some way to distance him from any trouble should it arise? He hated being in the dark but knew the cards had to be played out. He just hoped he had enough aces up his sleeve. Beth hung up, feeling a little better now. She tried to think of all possible scenarios for the FBI's interest. This mental exercise helped take her mind off the visit by the police. Waiting for Ted, her mind went back over the incident with the police officer and her unusual reactions to his presence. Unusual for that part of her that was Colin. Even thinking about it now, calmly, she wondered why she wasn't repulsed by her thoughts and behavior, given that it wasn't long ago she had been male. She was interested in seeing if her reactions to Ted had changed and whether she would feel a new sense of attraction. Sitting at the breakfast bar in the kitchen, Beth watched Maggie preen her coat after her breakfast and thought to herself that if she wanted to raise a kitten, she needed to get organized. She'd need a basket, bowls, a few toys, and a scratching post for her claws. Not to mention the different types of cat food. Maggie, sensing she was under scrutiny, looked up and mewed plaintively at her legs. Beth picked her up and relaxed a bit while she stroked Maggie's warm body. Maggie went tense and looked out the hallway moments before Beth heard Ted's knock and his soft call through the door. Beth put Maggie down and straightened her skirt before picking up the envelope with Colin's will in it. She went to the door and half opened it, looking past Ted's shoulder toward the car across the road. Using Ted's body as a shield as he pecked her on the cheek with his lips, she slipped the envelope inside his jacket. With the pretense of straightening his jacket, Ted stepped back and made sure the will went safely into his inside jacket. He handed her the flowers and made as if to leave. "Ted, make sure you get all the paperwork done, and I'll see you later, okay?" Beth said quietly with a little emphasis on the word paperwork. "No problem, I'll see to it first thing. I'll call you later, okay?" Ted then turned and walked back to his car, before driving off. Beth had definitely felt something happening to her when Ted had kissed her, something warm, which made her tingle to her toes, leaving her flushed. As she had watched Ted walk away, she found her eyes drawn to his movements, and an inappropriate thought that it was cute made her glad Ted couldn't see the blush that suffused her face. She gathered her purse, checking that she had all the basic essentials for a working woman, before picking up Maggie and heading out to her car. Driving off, she observed that the FBI car was following behind her at a discreet distance, but she wasn't going to try and lose it like they do in the movies. Hopefully, Ted would find out what was happening. At work, after being greeted warmly by Beth's co-workers, she went in to see Jenna, who was still settling Kathleen down into the daycare. Beth's arrival was met by a group of very excited children once they spotted Maggie. Beth made sure it was okay to leave the kitten there with the woman who ran the daycare, before walking with Jenna back to her lab. "Jenna, I need to talk. I've been getting these weird feelings," Beth explained. "I don't know how to deal with them. I think that I'm turning homosexual or something." "Oh. What makes you think that?" replied Jenna with an odd look on her face. "When I look at men now, they make me go all melty inside," Beth said worriedly. "That's not homosexual, that's heterosexual, what most women feel when they see an attractive guy," laughed Jenna. "Remember, you're becoming a real woman with the mindset of a normal woman. Of course, you will feel attraction to the opposite sex. It's only natural, honey," consoled Jenna while giving Beth a quick hug. But I don't want to be attracted to men," grumbled Beth, feeling like she was on an elevator with a broken cable. Jenna led Beth into her lab and sat her down on a chair while she perched on the desk. She looked at Beth for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "Beth, don't be scared of having feelings like a woman, it doesn't make you less than you were before. In fact, it's the reverse, I'd say." "Huh? More?" asked Beth, puzzled by Jenna's words. "Of course, you still have Colin's memories and values. All he learned is still in your head. You're still him where it counts. Just the shell is changed. If this genetic change goes the way I think it will, your brain will alter, becoming more female in its structure. This means the way you think will change. It doesn't mean you're going to forget being Colin, rather that you'll gain an understanding of what it's like to be a woman, along with all it entails." "Oh. I guess I knew that, it's just starting to hit me how different things will be," Beth answered. "You needn't be worried about fancying men, it's a natural progression of your growing femininity. Beth, I want you to look at me for the next few minutes, okay? I need to show you something." With that, Jenna went over to her filing cabinet and bent over to reach into the bottom drawer. Her short skirt that showed her curvaceous figure was pointed right at Beth. Jenna turned, still crouching, and Beth couldn't help but notice her figure as she stood up and looked at Beth with a grin. "Well, did you get a good look?" she asked. Beth blushed, which told Jenna all she needed to know. "What did you feel when you were looking at me?" Jenna asked with a wink. Beth considered for a moment before answering, knowing the answer was important. "I liked the way your skirt showed off your figure and the curve of your body was accentuated." "What about my blouse?" Jenna pressed. Nice. You fill out that top nicely. So, what's the point of this? Did it make you feel the way you did when you were still Colin?" "Oh," said Beth, caught off guard by the question. She thought back and then realized that she wasn't excited or affected the way she used to be. Colin would have had a strong reaction to seeing such a view, but Beth could appreciate the same view for its attractiveness, without feeling the same way. The thought worried her. No, it didn't make me feel like I did before. I can still appreciate the view, Beth blushed before continuing. But the feeling is gone. Beth started to tear up. Hey, don't start crying now, Jenna comforted the shaking woman. Now, think of a man you know. Ted, maybe? Jenna said with a wink. How does that make you feel? Jenna. Beth protested, trying to avoid the question. Answer me honestly now, Jenna persisted, raising an eyebrow. Beth sighed, and gave some serious thought to how she felt about Ted. Well, we were always good friends, but I never had any romantic attraction to him when I was Colin. Today though, things have changed. He kissed me this morning, and I went weak in the knees. My insides felt strange, like I had butterflies in my stomach. My heart started pounding and my breathing quickened. Beth tried to explain in a matter-of-fact way. My skin went all tingly, and I could feel goosebumps all over my body, she concluded. Anne? Jenna asked, patiently waiting for the unspoken to be voiced. I found him attractive, Beth reluctantly admitted, as if she were pulling teeth. He is kinda cute, agreed Jenna with a laugh. Look, I know it's a shock, but you'll have to get rid of the notion that it's wrong. You're a woman now, and he's a man. It's simple chemistry. Over time, you'll find yourself thinking that you've been a woman all your life, as the new body image becomes second nature. It will color your memories, and you may even find that memories of your life as Colin will have your new perspective on things. You mean I'll see myself as a woman when I think about things I did as a man? A shocked Beth asked. Yes, in time, but don't be alarmed. You just need to concentrate on the memories to see them from the right perspective, Jenna reassured her. This afternoon, I'd like to give you a physical to see how far you've progressed. Just as Beth nodded her acceptance, the phone rang. Jenna answered, listening for a moment, before handing it to Beth. Hello? Hi Beth, it's me, Ted. I'm at the old plant. I found out why the FBI is involved. Tell me, I was followed here to work, Beth replied. It seems they suspect sabotage. They think you had something to do with the death of Colin. Oh boy. Don't worry, I've talked to the agent in charge, Mr. Smith, and he's sending an agent to pick you up so you can come here to explain everything, okay? Another Mr. Smith? I can see they have no imagination. Do they think people are stupid or something? Okay, I'll be ready, Beth finished, before handing the phone back to Jenna. Just as Beth was going to ask Jenna about her seeming expertise on the subject of gender identities, the door opened suddenly, revealing a man in a dark suit. He looked at them both for a second before turning to Beth and taking her arm in a rather forceful manner. FBI. Please come with me, Miss Winslow, he said sternly, not giving her a chance to object as he pulled at her arm. Hey! You, stop manhandling our staff like that, Jenna demanded angrily. She stepped closer to the man and tried to block their exit with her arm. Don't interfere with me, lady. I have my orders, the man growled threateningly. He pushed Jenna aside, pulling Beth along, helpless in his grip. Hey! There's no need to be so rough. I'll come along voluntarily, Beth gasped out, wincing at the pain of his tight grip. The man said nothing, pausing only long enough to slap a pair of handcuffs on her wrists. Beth was scared but also angry, and she let the FBI agent know what she thought of him. You're rude and inconsiderate, treating people like this. I'll be speaking to my lawyer about this, Beth snarled. Jenna called security as soon as the handcuffs came out. No one was going to be walked out of here in cuffs in front of the rest of the staff, not if she could help it. Before the agent had pulled the still protesting Beth further down the corridor, two of the plant's security guards arrived. They looked at Jenna, who nodded in the direction of the agent before they accosted him. The agent blustered, showing them his ID badge, trying to impress them with his authority. They were notably unimpressed and demanded the cuffs be removed, saying this was unacceptable. Beth hadn't been charged with anything and was going to remain right there until things were sorted out. The agent reluctantly released Beth and stormed out, muttering they would hear more from him. The guards just winked at Beth and told her not to worry about him. Jenna took charge of the shaken Beth, leading her into the cafeteria for a coffee. Jenna was worried, although she managed not to show it in front of Beth. Beth had explained what Ted had told her over the phone about being accused of killing Colin. Jenna knew this wasn't true, but felt that having the FBI involved was going to complicate matters. If they got wind of anything suspicious, they would dig and pry through every avenue to get to the truth. To Beth, she remained calm, reassuring her that things would sort themselves out.